classroom. 21st century skills as they apply to OERs, repositories, and learning objects. I'm going to be tying this into our movement in the K-12 classroom, also in higher ed, and the National Education Tech Plan 2010, now 2011, which has moved out of its draft form and now actually is being put into law. So we'll be talking about those things as we go through. If you ever have a question, though, please let me know, and I'll look at my chat and answer that question. On my first slide here, I had to put this on here. It is not an iPad. This 21st century learning skill is going to be one of the carriers, I truly believe, for OERs and learning objects. This is called the KNO, K-N-O. It is not an iPad. It opens up like a book, and it is one of those unbelievable new gadgets, if you want to call it, for the 21st century learner. There's no doubt that textbooks will be replaced within the next 5 years as our textbook companies are getting smaller and smaller and we're using more electronic text. That's, by the way, what I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. So, moving along to the next slide. First, what is an OER? Here is a term that was actually coined in the early part of the 21st century, and it refers to digital teaching, learning, and resource tools developed by educators for educators. An OER can be, it's an open educational resource that can be a syllabus, it can be a course, an entire course, it can be a website, it could be a simulation, it could be a video, it could be even a tool, a course management tool. An OER takes on many different faces when we start to establish what it is. Now, we could break that OER down a little further, which I'll do in this presentation, but for right now, when we're talking about an OER, we're talking about something that is, by the way, open and free. It was called freeware in the 20th century, 21st century. We're going to refer to it as open source, open access, not necessarily the freeware. All right, so open educational resources, always on, 24/7. We have a new national tech plan that is calling for always on resources for students, so that if a student wants to learn at 2:30 in the morning or 5 a.m., those resources are always available. So we're talking open source, open access. The open source simply means that you can use it and you can change it around so you can specifically fit the needs of your classroom. So you could tweak it accordingly, and it is open for everyone. Again, I'm going to emphasize, it's free. We can just get there. Courseware, syllabi, websites, simulations, system tools. It is meant to change the classroom into a dynamic learning environment. So, why use OERs? Now, I have to start with a Lutheran perspective. I have to start with one simple statement saying that it is the Christian thing to do. Kind of simplistic, but I want to put this in perspective. And I'm going to go to David Wiley, who also has been coining phrase definitions for OERs. David suggested that the word open actually means generous, sharing, and giving. And he states that being generous is really what Christians do. And sharing and giving everything that they know and love and the Word of God is what Christians do as well. Well, we could take this open all the way back and technology all the way back to Gutenberg. And, Gutenberg created his printing press. And then all of a sudden, we had something called English law coming out. And the church, by the way, saw this printing press as somewhat of a problem. And they said it was a problem because they said, well, you're printing the Bible in different languages, and you can't do that because everyone's going to read the Bible. So there was a law, 15th century law, and it was for stricter laws on vernacular editions. It says, whosoever reads the scriptures in their mother tongue shall forfeit land, cattle, life, and goods. As a matter of fact, 39 people were burned or hanged for reading the Bible in their mother tongue. Why do I bring this up? Well, pretty simply because that was a collision. That was something over technology that ended in the Reformation. And now we've got the 21st century that's very much like the Reformation. We have this new technology, and the question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to take it and say we're blessed with the new technology? Are we going to take it and say we want to preserve the status quo? The only Christian thing to do with technology is to increase our openness and to increase our feedback so that knowledge is available to everyone. So that is our Christian perspective. We need to be creating, saving, and sharing these OERs. Okay, that being said, I want to move along. Under the Obama administration, there was this national tech plan, and Obama had said we need to raise the proportion of college graduates from where it stands, 39% to 60%. You know, here in Illinois, we pride ourselves in the schools in northern Illinois, and yet when we look at Illinois, our graduation rate is above the national average at 50%. Sad. And so in this new national tech plan, we are intending to close the gap, achievement gap, so that all students, regardless of race, income, or neighborhood, will graduate from high school and succeed in their college and careers. I have a big thing to say, but OERs come in. And just a real quick word, we're dealing with a new kind of a student who is raised on technology, a student who thinks differently, a student who acts differently, a student who will need these OERs, these always-on resources. The student, again, who knows how to do simple things that we find complicated, whether that is how to plug in our Blu-ray, and our 5-year-old can do it, or program our smartphone. In this National Education Tech Plan, it's kind of interesting. They mention there are 3 broad types of learning. I bring this up because I want to share a contrast with you between now and 30 years ago. There are 3 types of learning, and it's called learning that, learning how, and learning why. You could call the learning that the factual knowledge, and it's all in the posterior area of the brain. The learning why, the learning how is the procedural, which is in the anterior of the brain. The learning why is the motivational. I kind of call this the spark plug. I talked to a neurosurgeon about this because I wanted to be perfectly clear in any presentation that I did, and she said, yeah, that is the spark plug. And the spark plug that motivates the factual and the procedural or process part of the brain is different today than it was 30 years ago. The way a baby boomer learned and processed information was not the same, and the way that that individual was engaged. The motivation today is all digital because that's how these children have been raised. So it's important that we understand that paradigm, we understand that paradigm shift, and we understand how we can address the students of today. All right, now, there were 2 things that I had mentioned. I said there are OERs, but underneath OER is something called a learning object. This is simply a reusable digital chunk of information. And I want to put it in perspective here by saying a learning object is underneath there. You see we've got the OER here, the courseware system tools and websites. And a learning object can fall into any one of these things, but all it is a digital chunk of information that we use for our students, okay? This learning open educational resource is truly the umbrella that we're looking at, the free stuff, the stuff that's going to be put into our classroom and into our teachers' hands. But the learning object falls beneath the OER in the umbrella. Okay, now, and I also want to define one other thing. We have our 3rd term here, and that's a repository. You know, we all know what public libraries are, but public libraries, they're open to the public, as we know. We can walk in, we can go through the catalog, we can find anything we want, but the repositories are growing, not only in the United States and Canada, but worldwide. A repository is a digital library, virtual library for storing educational resources. And educators for the last 10 years have been storing their resources in these online repositories. Part of this presentation is I'm going to be sharing with you over 100 of these repositories that have the quote-unquote open materials that you can use. You can search these, you can get inside the portal, and you can find a wealth of information. Just to give you an idea what we'll be looking at, MIT, Harvard, University of California, Berkeley, all the heavy hitters, they have repositories. They put in their repositories their courses. You could, if you wanted, theoretically, go to MIT right now and you could take a course at MIT. Granted, you don't get credit unless you pay, but isn't knowledge worth something? And likewise, you could share any of that information to your students via your classroom. You can borrow information from MIT, from Harvard, University of Wales, Australia, all over the world, just by going to the repository, checking out materials, giving attribution to those, and saying where they actually were derived from, who created them, and then using them for your students. I'm going to go into, now I want to back up, and I'm going to put all of these in perspective. I'm going to go into now just a little bit of a talk here on some of the open source materials that are out there. Some are learning objects, they're very small. Some, small digital chunks, some are larger than others, but these are all in repositories, and I will show you how to get to those. All right, now, for example, and these are all links we have on here. This is for K-12, and I'm going to start with the K-12 environment and then go to higher ed. K-12, you can learn about gladiators from the BBC, explore ancient Rome through Google Earth Project, or find a supplement lesson on Hippocampus. Now, I have to go to that BBC, and if you want to click on it and see that game right there, this is one of thousands of games created by the BBC to be used in conjunction with lesson plans that they have put out there. The lesson plan is an OER. The game is a learning object so that you can use them in your classroom. Explore Ancient Rome, and you can click on that link. You'll see a video there. Explore Ancient Rome is a project through University of Virginia and Project Earth in which they have created ancient Rome so that your students in a virtual arena can go to ancient Rome, walk the streets, go into the Colosseum. Okay, so it's not peopled, but yet you could go through there and you could get a virtual look, not only, by the way, at ancient Rome, but through this, they're constructing ancient Rome, ancient Greek, colonial America, so you could walk down the streets and see exactly what the buildings look like. It's a phenomenal replication of our history, and it's history in the making. And by the way, I put up Hippocampus there because all of these things are on the Hippocampus and other repositories that we have. This is one of my favorite. It is a repository, and it's a repository put together by a colleague whose name is Ann Weeks, University of Maryland. In this repository, what Ann Weeks did is, Ann Weeks, and some of you may be familiar, has gone around the world collecting children's books. Again, what a phenomenal site this is. I don't know if we can, I think I might have clicked off. Oh, there we are. Okay, good. I almost thought I clicked off there. I'm back. Here, this. Whoops. Whoops. Whoops.
Dr. Pate, I think if you just uncheck your microphone and then try checking it again, I think we might have the audio fixed. I'm not sure what happened there, but I think that'll do it. Sorry, everyone. We just have a momentary. Oh, I think we're back now.
Okay, I'm just going to go through it like this. The Children's International Digital Library has 54 languages of children's books that she has put on there, full-length children's books. And yeah, you're right, there is an app for the iPad on this. It is an amazing source, especially when you realize that the library is at your fingertips. I'm not advanced. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I'm clicking too quickly, trying to get the next slide up. There we go. Okay, I also have for science, there have been many projects, the Cassiopeia experiment, the BugScope, which is a repository in and of itself, University of Illinois, where students can actually send in slides, and the electron microscopes are supplied by the university, and it is a virtual science class that you can set up. It is, again, one of those learning objects that is an amazing piece of work on the internet. We can do everything from build a DNA molecule to scale or size a cell, or go to Google Moon, Mars, or NASA's new Whirlwind, or Google Sky, and others for science. I'm going to be doing another presentation coming up for science and math. I've done it for the city of Chicago on all of these OERs and learning objects. Believe it or not, these are, I've got one just for science and one just specifically for physics then, and another for chemistry. There are so many resources out there. Part of the National Educational Tech Plan calls for a push for the science and math, and for that reason, that's why I have a lot more of those on hand than anything else. Attached, what you're going to find is this open educational resources. I've been working on this for about the last 6 months. Every time I get a new resource, I put it on there. I try to identify it, and I've been trying to keep them in an alphabetical order, but you might not find them all in alphabetical order. I started out by sharing with you all of the open educational resources in the open courseware. That is, where can you go to find a full course, to look at the course. Then I've gone on to all of the electronic text. Now, this is just a wealth of materials. And when I say electronic text, now some of these sources have more than just text, as you can see from Ball State. I put a little asterisk next to it because you could also find maps, architectural drawings, three-dimensional objects, and you name it. But most of the sources out there, and they are international sources, have the OERs or all of that freeware that you could use in your class. I put some significant repositories on there, and some search engines also. There are some new ones that just came out. One that came out, and it's all the way down underneath indexes, it's not that new, but it's pretty heavy with all kinds of great open source materials. And it's the Open Door, DOAR, University of Nottingham. I highly suggest you look at it because you will find more than you would ever need for your classroom. Are there K-12 materials within all of these resources? And the answer is yes, there are. Specifically, if you look at Hippocampus and Connections and some of the other ones, you will definitely find them. Also, if you go to the BBC, you will find more open educational resources at that place. I'm looking at 11:26, and Bernard, you had said to leave approximately 10 minutes. Am I correct?
Yeah, that works well. We're pretty flexible. Whatever you think works.
And I guess if I have anything to say, it is, where do you go from here? I was talking to a couple of high schools this last week, and I'll wrap up by explaining that it takes more than just finding the OERs in the learning objects. It takes a true shift in our way of thinking. And that is, we have believed that the teacher is the instructor is the teacher, and that is the knowledge source of the room. 21st century learning tells us that we must make available for our students more knowledge sources. Not that we want them playing while we're talking, but we need to allow for their creativity to go outside of the realm of our classroom and become continuous learners. Again, another subject for another day of the paradigm switch that we have to actually address. But right now, I believe we're at the stage that we need to be aware that these materials are out there, and we need to be aware that our classrooms are changing for the 21st century. And with that, I'm ready for any questions that you may have. Oh, that's a good question.
Dr. Pate, as you field some questions, Dr. Pate, I'm going to just shrink down your PowerPoint a little bit so I can share that document that you showed them.
I'm going to address how do I see that changing the pedagogy in the classroom. I'll address this. First of all, I think that we're bound by the teacher as the sole knowledge object in the classroom. And as a teacher, as an instructor, the instructor may wander around the classroom, but all eyes are fastened on the instructor. I think that we have to get used to the fact that we are going to be guiding our students through more information, more portals, more than we ever know ourselves. I think that we have to start looking at the classroom saying that there's not going to be a computer, but some kind of a handheld device in front of every student. Yes, we're going to have issues there, but we're going to have to deal with those issues, and we're going to have to interact as if we're interacting with Hal the computer. It's going to be a two-man show, and the two-man show is going to be, we're going to be up there. It's going to be the instructor and the handheld, computer, iPad, or whatever, assisting and educating our students. Where can you find the OER link? The OER links are on the Word document. Open Door, DOAR, is an index. It has many on there, but you will find over 100 OERs on the document that is in front of you. And I know Bernard was going to shrink that, but it is attached to this presentation. Am I correct, Bernard?
Yes, if they should see a little box here. If they click on OER resources, we just turned it to a PDF. Click on it and then click the Save to My Computer button. That'll allow you to download a copy of that document that Dr. Pate put together.
Other questions on OERs? Bernard, can I bring up the internet on my screen?
Yes, we can give it a shot. There is a way for you to, you want to share like your browser screen with everyone else?
I would love to share my browser screen with everyone else.
Okay, I'll walk you through how to do that. If you look, we have where your PowerPoint is located. In the bottom right-hand
Yes.
corner, there's an icon that says Share,
Yes.
and then go to My Computer Screen. And you're going to want to choose Windows, and then select the window. If you have your browser open also, you can choose the browser window.
Doesn't look like I can get that open because I have 3 screens here and it doesn't seem to be going to the right screen. Do I have examples of student-created OERs? The student-created OERs that I have gone to are those that if you go to Read, Write, Think, some of you may be familiar with those. Some of those are not necessarily student. There are some in there. Most of them are teacher-created. The student-created OERs end up to be student-created OERs that come through things like VoiceThread or some of those other slideshows that are out there. There is a source that I have used in my classes called Cog.ru. I'm going to type it here. Cog.ru is, it has a link on it that says 50 ways for digital storytelling. And on this Cog.ru, these are all OERs. They're actually websites. And the nice thing about this website is that it shows the OER, it gives the application for the classroom, and what it also does is it gives an example of what the end product looks like. Cog.ru uses, and it has additional ones on the end, so there are probably 50 plus another 10, 20 added onto the very end of this website. It's a learning activity on OERs and learning objects for the K-12 environment. Other questions? Everyone's so quiet out there. I apologize for not being able to use the internet and be able to walk you through the sites. Actually, that's probably one of the most exciting things. Is there a distinction between user-generated content and OERs? You know, this is such a new field right now, and the answer to that is no. User-generated OERs are educator-generated. So if I'm answering your question correctly, I'm going to say they're all user-generated. They're all, you can go to Merlot, you could go to Hippocampus, you could go to just about any of these sites and say, I created this and I want to share. And under Creative Commons and Open Source Commons, you share your materials and they're available for anybody to use. Schools that are using OER, yes, I certainly do. I am teaching a cohort in Wheaton. The Wheaton schools are definitely using their OERs. They do have an individual who's been designated as a content specialist. So that content specialist, and it's an educational tech content specialist, goes out, finds those OERs, and shares them with other disciplines. I have another person down in toward Naperville who's doing the same thing for a middle school. His name is Jason Wordle. He's gone through our program. Jason also has started using OERs. He has also been the content specialist. In our program, we do have that add-on endorsement. The add-on endorsement is for the tech specialist endorsement. Where that'll take you, I don't know. A tech specialist is mentioned in the educational tech plan, and there is a call now for schools to have that type of a person as a resource within schools to help facilitate finding all of those materials. I hope that answered your question. Thank you. Thanks, Bernard. One other note, and I would love to share this with you, if you have specific needs or specific specific needs for the classroom. That is, I really would like to know if you have any OERs for the pre-K. I have a page of OERs for the pre-K. I really would like to see if you have any OERs in regards to gaming. I have a Word document that is a 3-page on gaming. Games can be OERs, and as we know, games, by the way, are also mentioned by that National Education Tech Plan, because they said that the classroom of the future presents a challenge, and they would like to have more challenges using the games. So we now have those intelligent games, as some of you probably know, with the free rice, where the game actually scales to your intelligence. Or I just saw the release of a game on NPR 2 days ago. The game was a simulation on homelessness. You were able to choose the parameters of homelessness. They said you're out of a job, what kind of a job do you want, sliding scale, where you wanted to live, and by programming, you played the game, programming all the specifics about yourself. You played the game, and the goal was to see if you could get to the end of the month on the amount of money that you made from your job.